Hi, I'm Cynthia. This is Keen Adventures, and today I want to talk about Italy versus Portugal. Now, I love Italy. I've been to Italy multiple times. I've spent several weeks there, and it is an absolutely gorgeous country with a lot of culture, history, amazing architecture, and it's just a place that I would love to explore even farther. But let's talk about it in comparison to Portugal and what we think about now that the NHR tax regime might be possibly ending the end of this year. What are some of the alternatives to moving to Portugal? I know that Italy has a special tax incentive for people who buy in certain communities in Italy, mainly in the lower southern part of Italy, where you can get a reduced tax rate of a 7% flat tax if you were to purchase a place in one of these locations. So it's definitely an incentive when you're looking at that compared to potentially paying the progressive tax rate in Portugal. So I want to take a deeper dive into Italy and see if it's something that we want to consider. Can you get up there, baby? So Portugal and Italy both allow dual citizenship with the United States. So that's definitely a plus and something we would definitely consider Italy for. We ruled out Spain because they do not allow dual citizenship. But Italy definitely is a consideration. In regards to Italy, it takes at least 10 years to apply for citizenship. So you must live in the country at least 183 days a year for a period of 10 years before you can apply for citizenship. Whereas in Portugal, it only requires 5 years. So that's a significant difference. Although Tim and I have time, so 10 years, 5 years, either which one would be fine with us actually. In regards to Portugal and Italy though, in Italy, the rent prices are significantly less expensive than they are in Portugal, which is kind of interesting to me, that it would be so much less to rent a place in Italy than it would be to rent a place in Portugal. Prices are 12% higher in Portugal than they are in Italy overall. So that's pretty significant. However, according to the same website, purchasing prices are less expensive in Portugal than they are in Italy. I also think it depends on the region you're going to want to live in as to how much that ultimately will cost you. As I'd said before, Tim and I are only looking to rent for the first year, and after that we would be purchasing a residence. With that in mind, rent prices don't really impact our decision that much. Home prices would impact our decision quite a bit. But again, that's going to be very specific on the location you choose. And Italy is a fairly large country compared to Portugal, and there's a large range in prices in Italy. So you could probably find something in either country within our budget that we would be definitely happy with. So with that in mind, I think for us, Italy and Portugal are fairly similar in regards to that. We're not so concerned about finding a house or an apartment or whatever we decide to live in. I think we could find one in either country without a problem. The real issue comes with the consumer price index though. Italy is significantly higher for prices excluding rent than Portugal is. According to this website, consumer prices excluding rent are 32% higher in Italy. And that's significant. You're talking about spending 32% more on your food, your clothing, your haircuts, your veterinary bills, things of that nature that are just ongoing daily expenses, your utilities, what have you that you would normally pay for. If you had a budget of all those items of say $2,500 and now you're looking to increase that by 30%, that's an extra $750 a month. And that can more than make up the tax difference potentially between the two countries. So that's something we really need to consider before we make a decision. If we look at just the cost to eat out in Italy versus Portugal, Italy is 54% higher to eat at a restaurant than it is in Portugal. we had budgeted 400 euros a month to eat in restaurants over the course of a month. Now you're talking about 600 a month instead of 400 a month. So that's quite a bit more if you add that up over the course of a year. Also, we had budgeted 400 euros a month for groceries, and Italy is 38% higher in groceries than Portugal. And if you're adding 40% to that 400, that's an extra 160 euros a month that you'd be paying in food. So again, when you look at the total amount potentially that you may be paying on just the cost of living without the rent or the mortgage expense or your housing expense, just those basic items, 30% more is considerable. And it may be a factor in whether or not we make a decision to move to Italy versus Portugal. Portugal is, again, much safer than Italy. Portugal and Italy have similar, I want to say, religious backgrounds. They're both very Catholic. They both have a lot of history, without a doubt. They both are beautiful countries. So I'm not so sure that even if you were to move to a location that had a 7% flat tax rate, it would be beneficial to live in Italy versus Portugal if you're looking at the financial aspects of it solely. You would really have to look and see how the Portuguese would tax you if the NHR does not get extended past December 31st of this year, and how the progressive tax scheme may work on your particular income. I have a call in to several different accountants and lawyers to figure this out. I've gotten a few different quotes from them. They run about 1,000 to 2,000 euros for them to give us an estimate on how much we pay in taxes. I personally decided to hold off on going forward with that because I know that the government is not meeting until November 29th to make a decision on this. And I don't want to spend money on a maybe at this point because that doesn't make sense. It is possible, like with the golden visa, that there was debate back and forth and that it was extended longer. And if we could get an extra 6 months to a year out of the NHR being extended, Tim and I then could qualify next year because we are looking to move over in May of next year. So I'm waiting to make sure that that NHR decision is finalized before I spend money on determining how much we might actually owe in taxes over there. I feel like that would be a good idea to know, but only after I know that the decision is actually final. So we're not actually going to spend that money yet. We have a good estimate in our own brain as to how much that might cost us. We will make sure that we verify that amount if the NHR is not extended and we decide to go to Portugal. But at this point, we're holding off on that decision. We still feel if we compare Italy to Portugal, the cost of living overall for us, considering the fact that we would be buying after the initial 12 months, Portugal would be more cost effective for us at this particular point. Even if you consider the NHR being phased out by the time we move over there, just given the cost of living cost in Italy being 30% higher, excluding the rents, because that is significant. And that could potentially make up the difference between what you pay in taxes and what you pay in just general cost of living and eating out and your electricity and things of that nature. So it may make more sense to have a lower cost of living base as opposed to having the higher tax rate. At least with the higher tax rate, like I explained in the last video, if the exchange rate for the US dollar and the euro goes in the different direction than it currently has been going, there would be some tax liability that would be lessened for an individual with US dollars. And I say this from our experience when we lived in Germany. When we lived in Germany, the euro exchange rate was 1.55 US dollars to every euro. So my dollar obviously did not go as far, but my tax liability on the money was also lessened because in their eyes I didn't make nearly as much in euros. And that's very feasible that it could happen again. And I want to make sure that we're set up for success, at least with a lower cost base that we would have in Portugal. It'd be easier to modify my spending than with a higher cost base in Italy, and be able to reduce the spending in regards to that if my dollar does not go as far. So I think Italy might be a good alternative for some individuals to look into. I think for now we're going to stick on the path of Portugal and hope and pray that the NHR is continued and not closed off the end of this year. We'll have to see what happens with that. Again, I'm keeping my eyes on November the 29th to see what that looks like. Italy is beautiful. I wouldn't mind living there, but I also want a lower cost of living so I can be more flexible in my travels and be able to spend my time where I want to spend my time as well as my money. Thanks for watching.
Okay, let's go.